Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and I am back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today is a little bit of a different card for me. It is interactive, so I'm super excited about that. I'm going to be using the This Is Jack Stamps and Dies, the Pumpkin Patch again, and then the Adventure stamp set, and then the sliders. I showed you I can't remember the name of it, the other sentiments that I showed you, because I was going to use the Happy Halloween out of there, but I ended up not having room for it. So here I'm just going to stamp out some masks. I need that for my background. The card is going to be interactive, so my interactive piece will be popped up, but the background of it will be flat, which is why I need the masks. I very quickly realized that stamping my pumpkins all horizontal is that they were not going to fit on the little piece of paper that I had left. Thank goodness Honeybee Stamps has really fast shipping, because I ordered some when I realized that I was just about one sheet away from being out of my Eclipse masking paper, and it got here I think within 2 days, so that was super awesome. Now I'm going to move on to stamping my pumpkins. These 3 pumpkins will fill up my entire bottom. I am going to use just the same 3, even though there's multiple sizes in the pack, because I needed to keep them all at the bottom of the page, so I would have enough room for that interactive slider portion at the top. So I stamped this one in the center, and then I'm just going to stamp the 2 on the sides just slightly higher so that they give the appearance of being behind. I didn't say so yet, but happy Halloween. We thankfully, it has been raining here in Ohio for like a week and a half, just rain, and right now it will be cold tonight because it's only a high of like 46, but the sun is out. So thank goodness, because last year we had to trick or treat in the rain and it was miserable. Of course, Peanut doesn't remember that. We were talking about it today when I was dropping him off at his grandparents' house. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad it's not going to rain. It was so miserable last year. And he was like, I don't even remember it raining. It's like, how do you not remember being soaking wet and freezing? Maybe it was just me. Maybe I was the only one who was freezing. Or maybe the joy of Halloween is something that only children experience, and he just didn't even notice because he was having such a good time with his cousins. I'm not really sure. So for the background, I am doing a couple of greens at the bottom. I did bring them up above the pumpkins a little bit so that I would have a lighter area for my sentiment to sit. That will also be where my blue kind of blends into my green from my sky. So I just added a couple of greens there, and then I cleaned up because I don't want to get any green in my sky, and I'm going to use my traditional night sky color combination. This one just happens to be my favorite because it is a little bit of a brighter one because of the salty ocean. Some things to note. While I was doing this, I was editing it and rewatching what I had done. I know a lot of people get super discouraged with ink blending. And you can see here, like, this is my first layer. It's super patchy. It's not solid. There's darker areas, lighter areas. Like, the trick with distress inking, besides the starting off your page, moving in circles, like all of those tricks that you hear, is that you have to saturate it. Like, there has to be enough ink on the paper for it to be a solid color, if that's what you're going for. So even though you're seeing here, like, I'm putting on the blueprint sketch and it's still really patchy, this is why I do all of my distress inking twice. So I do it the same way I do copic, start with my lightest color, move out to my darkest, and then from my darkest back into my lightest. And you'll be able to see as we are adding more layers of color that it is getting more and more solid, so that by the time we are all said and done with the night sky, it will be a solid blend. So if you are getting discouraged with your ink blending, it may be that you're just quitting too soon, that you're quitting before you have that build up of color, those layers of color. Because see, now that we've gone all the way out to the black and now we're coming back in with the chip sapphire, this portion at the top is very solid. Bottom's still patchy, but we haven't gone back over that yet. So just stick with it. Don't get discouraged. Keep adding those layers of color and it will get more solid. I'm using, this is my go-to cardstock, it's Nina 80 pound Solar White. I choose 80 pound because it works better with Copics versus the 110. But if you're not a person who colors with alcohol markers, the 110 is just fine. And I know that there are people who use that as a sturdier card base. So here you'll see at the bottom that now I'm adding that Salty Ocean. And I am going to have to go over this once or twice so that I can get a good blend into that blueprint sketch, because it is, about 2 or 3 shades darker. But eventually, like, we do get there, and it's not a whole ton of time. So now I'm going to go ahead and clean up this, and then we're going to make our stars. A couple of things with the stars. I like dimension on all of my things. I think we have established that by now. So in order to get some dimension in my night sky, you need to have some lighter stars and some brighter stars. So I start just with a number 2 round brush, and that was just clean water that I put on that because Distress Ink reacts with just water. And so you can see a very light background of stars. Then I'm going to go in with my Perfect Pearls, and this is just the color Perfect Pearl, and this is going to add a ton of shimmer and shine, which is totally right up my alley. And then you could totally stop here. Like, this clearly has a very night sky feel, so you could just stop at the Perfect Pearls. But I'm going to add one more layer, and that's the acrylic block that you see sitting over there. That has just flat white acrylic paint on it. And so I'm going to take a stiff bristle brush. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my paint so it's easy to flick. And then I'm going to hit that again, like flick it against the side of that acrylic block. And it's going to create a ton of little spatters. So you have like larger bright stars, you have smaller, like middle of the road stars. And this is just how I get the best, like starry night for me. I'm going to remove my masks. I'm using my little pick tool for that since I have on darker nail polish. And then I've trimmed out, cut them apart. Honeybee Stamps now makes dies that don't have to be cut apart, which is thebomb.com. Like, I totally love that. But these ones are a little bit older, and so I do still have to cut them apart. I thought originally I was going to do 2 ghosts, but then I realized if I did 2 ghosts, I wouldn't really have room for a sentiment, and it would be kind of crowded. So I opted just to do 1 ghost. And for me, that was the one that faced to the left. You could do whichever one you wanted. So I went ahead and die cut these. Just ran them through my Spellbinders Platinum. And then you want to keep both of these pieces parts for your slider so that you can line everything back up. I have some regrets about this middle piece of the slider, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So I'm just lining that back up just so I can kind of see where everything is going to sit. And then I'm going to start my coloring. I could have, and there would be nothing wrong with it, I could have just left my ghost white, but again, dimension, right? So I am going to add some shading to my die cut with just a C1 and a C3. It's hard to see because it's a white on white background. I apologize for that. I didn't really think about it. I was just kind of in the zone doing my thing. But basically all I'm doing is I'm leaving a white edge, but I am giving him a little bit of an outline with my C1 just all around his body. And then I'm going to flick that in on the head portion and then the body portion underneath his arms. C1's super light, so it's not a ton of shading, but it's enough to give him a little bit of a 3D look. And then I am going to add some shading up to like the sides of his heads and then underneath his arm and on his little ghost tail there. I think they're called tails. What else would you call it? And then go back over that with my C1 just to blend that out. And then I was pretty happy with the way that he looked. So all I need to do is just add his face. I'm going to color the pumpkins the same way that I always do. I have a question. You get sick of seeing me color pumpkins this time of year? Because I feel like I colored a lot of pumpkins and I haven't really made that many cards. But so then I'm just going to move into that. This again is a brighter color combination that I really like for my pumpkins. If you don't want to go this bright, you obviously could use any combination of orange that kind of, suited your card. Here, just the shading I'm going to add to each one of the sections of the pumpkin. And then just from the top and the bottom, leaving that highlight right across the center. So Halloween, what are we doing for Halloween? We're in a little bit of a different situation. So traditionally, even though we have like even since we have been divorced, me and Nathan's father have always taken him trick-or-treating together. So, I mean, we've never not. And which is awesome. I know not everybody has that relationship or that opportunity to do that, but neither one of us wants to miss out on it. So it is what it is. It's just the night that, for those 2 hours we hang out together, and it's for the betterment of our son, and everybody's cool with that. So this year, his dad actually called me on Monday. Now Halloween's today on Saturday. Called me on Monday and said one of the people at his work tested positive for the COVIDs. So we decided that we weren't going to risk it. We didn't want Peanut to be exposed. And then in addition to that, not be able to go trick-or-treating, not be able to go to school, all of those things. So instead of him going to his dad's on the days that his dad would see him, he's just stayed here. And it was the same way when Eric got exposed a couple of months ago. He just stayed at his dad's. He didn't come here, which totally sucks. And I feel for him because I missed him like crazy when I couldn't see him. So I'm sure that his father is feeling the same way. Plus it's Halloween and he's going to miss that. And it's a total bummer. So his cousin on his dad's side, Nathan's cousin on his dad's side, has an October birthday. And so they are doing the birthday party today. And then I think it ends at like 5. Trick-or-treating starts at 6. So he is going to his cousin's birthday in full costume, in full skeleton costume. And he was super excited about that. He tried to wear his long underwear, like right out the gate. And I was like, I don't really think you need long underwear in Aunt Ashley's house. That's really going to be more for this evening when we go trick-or-treating. I think you'd be a little warm inside. So I did take him to his grandparents today so that they could take him to the birthday party. Then he's going to come back home. I am hoping to get over to my mom and dad's so that they can see him in his little costume. And then we are going trick-or-treating with his other cousin on his dad's side. So I'll be driving over to his aunt's house so that we can do that. And that's the game plan. So like I told you before, we are going as skeletons. Now he has a full mask and everything else. I just have a little dress thing, which I'm 110% wearing long underwear underneath because it is going to be cold and I'm not into the cold. Side note, back to the card. So I'm trying to put some ground underneath these pumpkins, and the greens really just weren't dark enough. So I ended up going in with a C7 to really get that shadow. And then I just went right over top of the C7 with my green, and you'd never even know I used a gray. The Names Jack stamp sets has all of these fun little pumpkin faces or ghost faces or monster faces, whatever. It's got faces in it, y'all, and it's super cute. So I really wanted to use the faces. You certainly don't have to. You could just leave them as pumpkins, and this card would still make sense. But since I wanted to use the adventure sentiment, I thought that it was so fun to make the sentiment say adventure awaits, like they were all going to go out and get into, spooky shenanigans. I thought that it would make more sense if all of the pumpkins had their own little personality. So I put their little faces on them, and then I'm going to put my little face on my ghost. Which, I mean, again, so cute. This one I didn't get as solid on the first time I was stamping, so I just went ahead and stamped it again. Joy of the Misty right there, is being able to stamp them again. And then here is where things started to go awry. Now, you know I don't build interactive cards. I don't. This is not really my forte, but I wanted to because it was fun. So I have some regrets about not using the centerpiece, the middle piece of my circle. I should have. I didn't. I thought that if I just used the black soot and the chip sapphire, it would be a close enough match in the background that it would be fine, that it wouldn't be too terribly noticeable. Now, here I am looking directly at it, and it is terribly noticeable, and I don't know why I didn't make this decision at the time. But I was excited about putting the card together. So here, I'm just going to use some purple tape to hold all of my circles in place, so that way my placement is good. And then I am going to pop out that middle piece away from the tape so that I can slide my penny in to be the slider portion of my card. So I started with a bigger piece of foam tape, and then I quickly realized that that would not slide. It was too big. So really, you just need a tiny little piece of foam adhesive. Probably like Pop Dots would be totally sufficient, but I don't have Pop Dots because I buy the Big Daddy roll of Scotch tape. the Scotch foam tape. And so here I had corners that were too large. So now I got to peel it back off again and trim off the corners. So basically you need a small round piece of foam tape, people. That's what you need. And I got there eventually. So originally I just used this one piece of foam and it did work. Like I attached my ghost to it and it did slide. You can see it here. But once I started putting my card together, I realized that I wanted a little bit more height so that it was easier to slide. Now, again, I'm trying to put foam tape on this like I normally would, and I can't because I have to make sure around the edges I have enough room for my penny to slide. So I get all of my foam tape on. Again, don't do this before you stamp your sentiment. Don't. I am doing it, and then I ended up running into a snafu. So get all of your stamping done before you start building your card. Don't do what I do. Do as I say. Which is really hard right now for Peanut to understand. I honestly think 7 may be the most difficult age that we've experienced thus far, minus the colicky baby. He just has an opinion about everything. He is a Mr. Know-It-All, and he is driving me crazy. So, anyway, back to the building of the card. So now I've added a second layer of foam, and I'm going to adhere that onto the penny, and I did like this much, much better. But again, I have no business putting any of this on before I put my sentiment on. So here's where I've realized that I have not stamped my sentiment and I am in a little bit of trouble. So I tried to stamp the sentiment just this way, and I thought, well, I'll just give it a good ton of pressure and we'll see how it goes. Don't mind the knocking around of the camera. My apologies. Peanut was in the craft room with me at this time. So I try to stamp it, and when I lift it up, I can see the middle is not stamping at all. So I have to take my ghost off. He's too tall for me to get good pressure. I also realize that my magnets are, again, because I have this foam tape behind it, are making it a little bit too tall. So now here I'm getting there. I'm getting where there is full contact, but it's not great. So I'm going to re-ink, and then I am going to stand up and I am going to Sherry Carroll CPR this thing back to life. Yes, I am. And it worked. So just don't, but do it first. Like, just save yourself this whole ton of time. If I had just stamped it on my flat panel, I wouldn't have had to do any of this like disassembly. So now I'm going to put I ripped off my foam off my ghost there when I removed it. So now I need a new piece of foam, and I'm going to reattach my ghost. And then I realized that the adventure portion was a little bit hard to read. So I'm going to use an old school Kelly trick, and I am going to outline it with my white gel pen just to help it stand out from the background and from that busy stamping with the pumpkins underneath it. This is a great trick, tried and true. I've used it for years to help your sentiment stand out. It's a good one to have in the arsenal. So I wanted my sentiment to say adventure awaits. Here, I'm just playing with the card because when you make interactive cards, I mean, how do you stop yourself from playing with them, right? So I wanted to do the awaits in black in white embossing. So I got my sentiment a little bit close to the edge, and it didn't really stamp great. And so I did the anti-static bag. I'm going to stamp it in clear. This is the Nuvo embossing ink. I have this and Versamark. They both work really well, so I use them interchangeably. And I realized it's just too close to the edge. So now I take my stamp off. This is risky. I'm not going to pretend like it's not, because it still has the ink on it. So if you don't get it exactly where you want it when you put it down, you're going to create little areas where your embossing powder is going to stick. So maybe try cleaning it off first. Again, I'm over here on a wing and a prayer. So I apply my embossing powder. This one's good. It's high enough up. But then I go in to clean up my area, and I accidentally scraped off the bottom of my eye. So I got to put powder on and then scrape off the excess again, because sometimes embossing is just that way. So once that is done, I am going to heat set this until it is all smooth and melty. I always preheat my heat gun so that it only just takes a couple of seconds, and that reduces the warping. I trim this down to a label, and I'm going to pop this up on foam as well. So this will be as tall as my ghost is taller, I think, even though they're both 2 layers of foam. So that's that. And then I'm going to add the glitters. I'm going to play with it some more, of course, because it's an interactive card. I like the way he kind of spins on there. Peanut's been playing with it all day. And Eric was like, has your mom taken photos of that card yet? If not, maybe put that back. And I did take photos, but they weren't great. Here I'm going to try and fix that black circle portion. I really wish I would have put that middle part down, but I didn't. And now I can't because my penny's in the way. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. So I'm going to try and fix it. And this is just that clean water that I did before. And then I'm going to get the perfect pearls. I can't do anything about the color, the fact that the color is not the same, but I can add these little speckles in there to help it blend into the background a little bit more. And it worked okay. I mean, it's sufficient that I'm not like mad at the card. I did try to be careful about where I was doing my little spatters, but some did get on my ghost or some of my pumpkins. I just very quickly wiped it off. Since I am going to glitter them, it's not that huge of a deal. But yeah, so I did try to fix it. And here's just me being sad and having regrets. So now here's the glitter. I did not go over their faces. I left that like a stark black, but I did go over the ghost with my glitter pen. This is just clear, as well as the pumpkins. I went over them as well, just avoiding their faces. So that is it. I would love to know what you or your kiddos are being for Halloween. Please share with me in the comments below. I think that's so fun. And then if you follow me on Instagram, which by the way, it's changed. It's now Kelly Taylor Cards. That I will be over there and I will be sharing pictures of Peanut and I. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.